Nice shirt.
Hey, you know what? The last time I saw this band, it was opening for you guys.
Yep, I was gonna ask if you saw that show. Yeah, that tour was super fun.
Yeah, that was a stellar lineup. It was just after I moved to Montreal, and I was like, this is like my dream lineup right here. And they just like set it out just for me. But there we are. So where are you at the moment?
I'm home in Chicago. So we start rehearsing for our tour next week. So we're just kind of just hanging out, enjoying the summer a little bit.
Nice. That last little bit of reality, like normality before the tour starts up again, right?
Exactly.
You just savoring every moment.
Yeah, for sure.
So the new album is out. It feels like the perfect time for a Rise Against album. Does it always feel like a perfect time for a Rise Against album?
It does. There always seems to be just chaos in the world, so it always seems like a good time to release something that's gonna help people get through, like crazy times. Which again, like I said, it's just ongoing crazy times, never stops. This record in particular, it definitely coming out of 2020 and just coming out of COVID. Well, we're not even out of COVID. Just things are better and better, but there's obviously with the Delta variant, and there's this. It's like a roller coaster ride, but it is very amazing to finally release the record, and it's a very high energy record. And I feel like everyone needs that right now.
For sure. So it's been 4 years since the last album. That album came out in a very political landscape as well. But I feel like you've had a lot of potential content handed to you in the last 4 years. Was it hard to know what to write about over the last 4 years?
Yeah, well, Tim, our singer, he writes all the lyrics, and the lyrics definitely come last. So we'll write the music, get a vibe for what the music is dictating, and then Tim will write lyrics to go along with that mood. But I always feel like he writes from most of the time he writes from a very general, everyday perspective on life, because and of course politics will influence that, and relationships, and that's just the nature of someone's everyday life. But we try not to go for the low-hanging fruit, to address, say, like Donald Trump directly in a song. I don't think it would do anyone any good, and it would be dated. I think there's bigger issues to address. And I do think that, with every president, they're just the face. There's still a government you have to tend to. But I do think we're on to greener pastures, at least coming from the Trump presidency. At least President Biden shows compassion and acknowledges science, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, obviously Trump was a very divisive figure. Like that's probably understating it quite a lot.
Yeah.
But he was there because of a lot of things that are going on in the world. It wasn't him that created it. Obviously, he didn't help. But right. Is that what you're talking about when you're talking about looking at the wider picture rather than the low hanging fruit?
Yeah, I mean, Trump is great at poking sleeping bears. He was great at stirring shit up and not, I think a president's job first and foremost is to calm the American people and to make everyone feel safe. And he did none of that. He just stirred the pot. And, I mean, he definitely didn't denounce white supremacy. It's like, what the fuck? Like, this is like 2020, and he's making it okay for people to be racist, or at least to be out, to come out of their secret racist views, to make it seem okay to be out, out in the open about it. And to be sexist. And I mean, he went into his presidency showing how sexist he is, and people just look the other way. They thought him being different was going to be a solution to the broken political system that we have, and it was definitely the opposite, you know.
Yeah. So one of the subjects that you kind of address on this album is the theory of the American dream. How do you
Yeah.
feel the American dream looks in 2021?
Well, I think there's a severe lack of older generations trying to help younger generations. I feel like when, not so much even when I was a kid, there were definitely adults that would offer advice and help me through along, difficult times. And I feel like my parents experienced that even more so. I feel like my grandfather was the hardest worker, but he always took time out to help his children, my mom and my aunts. And there seems to be a lot more just selfish kind of, I don't know, this like overtone of just being selfish. And I definitely attribute that to my generation. I feel like people are trying to step over one another to reach the top. It's like the me first kind of thing. But they're not willing to help out the younger generations, and I'm not saying everyone's like that, but I feel like more and more so now than 50 years ago. So I think it makes that American dream seem a little bit more impossible. And the American dream, right, is supposed to be you have a job that pays you enough to live comfortably in your life. And I'm not saying like everyone's going to be a bazillionaire, but you earn enough to be comfortable in your life and to be able to have housing and buy food and pay your bills. But it seems to be more and more of a hurdle, and I definitely, I worry for my children. They're 10, 12, and 8. And so I do think that it's up to us to guide the ship a little bit better, to help them out, to help kids out when they graduate from college and get out in the workforce. The minimum wage is enough to where they could actually have their own apartment and live a life, a comfortable life.
Yeah, for sure. And you talk about this kind of rise in selfishness. Do you think that is down to social media? Do you see a correlation there?
Well, yeah, I think it's one hand washes the other, where you see it's like this trying to top one another. Social media feeds directly into that. You see someone posting photos of their fancy vacation. It's never as amazing as the photos make it seem, no matter what you're posting, obviously. So, and people get jealous. People, they want what the other person has, and that just feeds into that. You're always comparing yourself. Even myself, I limit myself daily on social media, at least with my Instagram. I put like a 20-minute limit on my phone.
Right.
And then once that time's up, I'm done for the day. Because I noticed like it's so time consuming and mentally draining to scroll, and it's like your mind kind of falls into this like hypnotic state of just being unproductive, and then it starts playing into your mood, your mood of the day, basically.
Absolutely.
So,
and that's by design, by the companies that give you the apps, right?
100%. Yeah. I mean, it's like the equivalent of like what cigarette companies, tobacco companies did. It's just a different medium, but it's the same concept. Yeah, you're hooked.
So you guys have obviously always been very politically active. And on this album, you have this song called Talking to Ourselves.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a different song for you guys, I think. But talk to me about that title and the theme of that song in particular.
That song is about being a band for 20 years and being outspoken politically, socially, speaking about environmental issues. And at a certain point, we had to ask ourselves, are people even paying attention? Like, are we just is it falling on deaf ears? And I think that's just like with anything you do for 20 years, you kind of reassess and make sure like it's still worthwhile and worth your time. And it definitely is. We love the band. It's our lives, but it's one of those songs, like it addresses that, like, are we just talking to like an empty room? But I think at the end of the day, even if we even if one person hears us, that then we're doing our job, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what that song speaks to.
And obviously you guys are popular enough where you're never really playing to an empty room anymore, but you are playing to people who are kind of on your side. So how do you reach the people that are not Rise Against fans? How do you kind of try and communicate with those people?
I mean, it's definitely through like the fans we get from radio, like our radio singles, fans that we get from Spotify playlists. They might hear a song on some other band's, you know, their playlists or whatever. And then they start going into our catalog, and they may not be on board for the political punk rock that we play, but they're turned on to it. So it's, and some people, they get on board and they're along for the long haul. They're on, you know, that ride for till we're basically done as a band, right? They're lifers basically. But then there are people that are turned off by it, and that's just the reality. That's just the nature of the music business and what we do. When you're singing about something that might ruffle some feathers, but because it's because the topic is just uncomfortable to talk about, not because we're force feeding our opinion. It's more about facts that we're singing about that are just uncomfortable to bring up. Some people don't want that. They just want strictly entertainment from their music, and they don't want a heavy, heavy lyrical content. And I get that. That's totally fine, and that's their prerogative. But I do think that even if we appeal to 50% of those people, you know, it makes it all the worthwhile. And that's actually the reason why we ended up signing to a major label back, 15 years ago. Is every band says that, oh, it's to appeal to like a bigger audience, but it's true. Like when we signed to a major label, we took less money to maintain our creative control, and because we wanted to maintain our identity, and that's exactly what we did. I think that's why it worked out so well for us, in that musical landscape, that major label world.
Well, I truly love the new album. Like, it's everything I want from a Rise Against album and more. I feel there's some nice diversity in there, which is really great to hear.
Thanks.
It's nice to hear that you're planning tours and things like that. And we hope you get back to Montreal very soon. We will look forward to that. But thanks very much for your time today. And we hope to see you in real life very soon.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks, Joe.